Hello and welcome to another edition of Metis Warrior here with Timothy and Alexandria.
Hello everybody.
And so what I want to say before we get started with today's show is that Darryl Leroux is not the person who decides who is Metis or not. By his own, what he calls his own self, he says he is not even Metis. I haven't seen anything where he's claiming to be indigenous. So we have a white man who is out there defining who is Metis or not. And then you have the evil people that are suffering from greed, which is a sin. And greed, the sin of greed, has led them to support this colonial genocide against the Metis people. Now, we know that Chartrand and Chartier, good God, man, let me just tell you, they support this white man butting in to our Metis business. And the message that I have for Darryl Leroux is stay the hell out of the Metis communities, period.
And you know what, folks, today's show really, and we're going to elaborate on this more and more, and the MNC really is a dysfunctional organization, and essentially, if you want to put it in layman's terms, they're really being controlled by a few individuals and consultants. And then we're going to get into later the crux of the show where Chartrand is full-on attacking the MNO. But before we go into today's show,
I want to say this. I want to say that a lot of people, if you look at our new platform, our new channel here, you may not realize that we were responsible and instrumental in bringing down the MNC and the MMF in their corruption and greed. And we did a lot of damage to the MNC as far as putting out there for the public all the corruption that existed. Now, we were hoping that things would go in a better direction where we would not have to go back after the MNC and the MMF. However, I do see some improvements, but there's still a lot of corruption and greed there, and this is a problem for us.
And you know what, folks, I'm going to give you this thought to ponder. And Riel paid the ultimate price in his crusade to have Metis people accepted as equals in Canada. And nowhere in any of his writings does it say just Metis in the MNC fake Homeland Map. It seems really these days that the only way to reconciliation comes with multitudes of money, and the money doesn't even reach the people who really need it. That's what it's really come down to today. And I know Riel, Cuthbert Grant Jr. would really be rolling in their graves on what has transpired.
And let me go back to Darryl Leroux for a moment. I do not like him butting his nose into the Metis business, into the Metis communities, but I'm going to say this. I do agree with Darryl Leroux about some things. If you have one indigenous ancestor from 300 years ago, you are not Metis. If you have 1% indigenous blood, 1.1%, 1% indigenous blood, whatever, you are not Metis. And I'll say that because we did a whole show on genealogy and DNA, and if you go back and take a listen to that, you'll see that those percentages are probably not even accurate, and it's a lot less than that. And so you have these, and what Darryl Leroux has done by exposing a lot of the people in the East that have came out, and there is real Metis in the East, let's just say that first and foremost. But what I do want to point out is the fact that he has exposed a lot of the white people in the East that are pretending to be indigenous. There's a lot of fake Metis groups out there that are going after Metis funding. So you can say, okay, yeah, he did a good thing by that. However, Darryl Leroux needs to stay the hell out of Metis business. You got no business in the Metis community. Why in the hell is Chartrand and Chartier been supporting this guy? They support him because that is an instrument, a tool that they're using to try and get the government to only give them the bulk of the money, and so they get all this money in. Now, in the West, you have all these corrupt organizations popping up, and they're trying to take indigenous funding. This is wrong. Make no mistake, we have to stay with the MMF. We just have to get rid of the corruption off of these organizations and make it a fair and equal organizations.
Well, we really need a purge, and a purge needs to happen, and I truly believe this statement, and it's really Darryl Leroux and his, I'm going to play on a word of his book, so I'm not even going to name his book, Distorted Crew, and I feel are directly to blame for inciting hate against true, in fact, Indigenous people. I truly believe that statement.
And I want to point out something, that I have information that some of Laroux's family members are actually members of an Eastern organization. I'm not going to dive too much into that, but this is what we were told, and maybe we'll make a whole nother show on that. And it's funny that Darryl Leroux spent so much time attacking. I'm speaking to the people out there that may have some common sense. I want you to take a listen to me. If you're traveling and you come to Canada, and you get to Canada, or let's just say North America, you get to North America, and you impregnate women there. If you're a European and you're impregnating Native women, guess what? You have Métis offspring now. These are Métis people. Now, this would originate, since there was no UFOs and beam-me-down Scotties at the time, this would actually originate in the East. So we know we have real Métis in the East. The problem with that is you have so many fake Métis taking leadership roles in organizations and are damaging the real Métis rights and recognition in the East. It's actually causing damage to it. And so, you know, with that being said, the Homeland Map is nothing but garbage. It is garbage. It is not an accurate map. Now let's look at the definition right here, if you look at your screen, of what Métis is. Métis is a mixture, an offspring of European and Native American, right? That mixture equals Métis. Now what Chartrand and Chartier have done is create a homeland map to try to further define Métis. No, that is not how you do it. You cannot add that to the definition and say if it didn't happen in this area. That is a load of crap. That map is garbage. And, you know, that map needs to go away because it is not accurate. We know the first Métis would have occurred in the East. Let's be real here.
And you know what, folks? This fake homeland map from the MMF is just a propaganda tool that they're using to really pull the wool over the Métis people's eyes. It's a tool to further, and let's put it bluntly, and this is what's going on today, and this is really Métis against Métis genocide, and it's really a modern invention, and it's brought on by greed. And I really think that the MNC and the MMF is really involved in, for a lack of a better word, a Métis elite cult. Maybe the cult isn't the proper wording, but I really think that that's what's going on here with all the fake propaganda and what they're trying to perpetrate.
Well, you can't take nothing away from David Chartrand. David Chartrand fought for Métis rights and recognition. He gained that. He's done a lot for the Métis people. However, unfortunately, with money comes greed and comes corruption. And there's been a lot of misappropriation of funds. And that's something on our old channel, which is no longer up because we had to redo everything because our old channel was hacked. And if you would have went back, for the people who are just now discovering us, we were the ones that stepped out because CBC's bought and paid for. They weren't going to do it. APTN's bought and paid for. They weren't going to do it. Let's just be real here. That we were the ones that went out and put out for the public to see the corruption, and we were bringing down the MNC and we were bringing down the MMF, and we backed off. And since we backed off and focused our attention in other areas, they have been regaining some progress here, and we've been allowing them to do that because we were thinking things were going the right direction. But you cannot take anything away from David Chartrand. Yeah. Has he misappropriated funds? Hell yeah. Is he helping with genocide against some of the Métis in North America? Hell yeah. But has he gained Métis rights and recognition? Yes, he did, but only in the specific area where he can maintain control of the finances. And this is a problem here. And I do not recommend starting off with a different group or new groups. We need to just correct the problems in the groups that we have right now.
Well, we need a purge, and we need to drain the Métis swamp, and we need to have fresh blood, young people in there that aren't set in their ways, set in the ways of the corruption. We need to have new people in there, folks. And what's going to bring us to today's show, and as you know, anything that's going on with the MNC, MMF, we've got Will Goodon all over Twitter. He's in love with Twitter, and he posted on November 17th where he's saying, so it appears that Métis, the Alberta Métis, Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, and Métis Nation of Ontario have left the Métis National Council. They have started a new organization called TRULY Council, and then he goes on to say that they've sent several letters to Canada saying they represent themselves and do not participate in the MNC. I really wonder where he gets all of his information, where he knows that they're saying that the MMC, they're not going to participate in the MNC.
I kind of hold us responsible a little bit from that breakaway, because over the last 2 years, and again, people new to this channel that may have never seen our old channel before may not realize that this is something that we were pushing for, because there's a huge, I feel like we should upload some of the financial stuff that we put up before on the old channel from the MNC. So there was a lot of corruption there, a lot of misappropriation there, and so we were so aggravated that we were kind of pushing for the breakaway from the MNC, because they were refusing to change and refusing to go on that righteous path. And so, but however, you got Chartrand there, man. You got the MMF. And I'm not encouraging anybody to leave the MMF. What I'm encouraging is change. I'm encouraging that fair and equal treatment for all the Métis. Now, we know the MMF has started doing good things again, but we also know that there's some problems that are still there. But with millions of dollars, there's always going to be problems no matter what organization you're in. There's some organizations in the East, man, them are some backstabbers, snakes that are just out for the indigenous funds. And a lot of times these organizations are ran by just white people that are just using the indigenous people so they can take their money. Now, I'm not saying all organizations in the East are like that, but I'm saying there's quite a few. Again, we do know there is real Eastern Métis, but also we know there's fake Eastern Métis. But go ahead.
And on November 17th as well, Will Goodon goes on to say, but this is very disturbing. Poitras and McCullum seem intent on, and get a load of this word, balkanizing, and it says get the Métis Nation. They are continuing to allow non-Métis Nation people. He doesn't say non-Métis people. He says, this is the key word, allow non-Métis Nation people to through the MNO's back door. So it's, if you read through that, he's not saying not Métis people. And I'm going to just read this to you. And
well, let me just say this: we've supported the MNO, we supported FRO, and I'm going to tell you this: if we find out that that is actually happening, where they're bringing in non-Métis. Now, he's saying non-Métis Nation. Now, I'm assuming that he's actually referring, if you're a member of the Métis Nation, then you're a Métis person. That's how I'm assuming he's saying they're bringing in non-Métis into these Métis organizations. And to FRO and the MNO, I'm just going to speak to you. We supported y'all. We have aggressively supported you. But I'm going to tell you this. If I find out you're bringing in non-Métis, if we find that out, we're going to aggressively make sure that that leadership will be replaced with a new leadership that's going to keep just Métis in there. So I don't know if this accusation by Goodon is accurate, but I know that if anybody has information on that, they should go ahead and release it, because, yeah, that would be a huge problem.
Well, it is a play on words where Goodon says non-Métis Nation people. So is that saying that if you don't belong to the Métis Nation, you're not Métis? Or it's a play on words there. So that's his exact words. But what I'm going to focus on is he uses the big word of balkanization. And balkanization is sometimes depreciated geopolitical term for a disorderly or unpredictable fragmentation or sub-fragmentation of a larger region or state. So he's trying to say that the MNS, MNO, and MNA are defragmenting away from the home or the MNC. That's what he's trying to say there as well. But you'll also notice, and you'll see these in screenshot as well, where he's actually going to backtrack, and he's going to say he's correcting his tweet. He's taking balkanization out of this tweet, and he's saying that Portress and McCullum seem to be intent on breaking up the Métis Nation.
Well, Chartrand and Goodon and Chartier, let me speak to y'all for a moment. The reason why this happened is because y'all have been corrupt to the bone, man. How many shows have we done against you on our old platform? How many times have we reached out to these people, to y'all, and you know what? All y'all did was hide stuff. All y'all did was mislead auditors. All y'all did was submit crap to the auditors. And there's a huge problem with misappropriation of funds. Had this not occurred, this breakaway probably would have never happened. And yeah, because we were instrumental in exposing a lot of this, I can guarantee you that I feel somewhat responsible for this happening. But however, you did not handle things properly, and that's why there was a need for this to happen. However, if we do find out, and I don't know if the accusation is true, but let's speak to the MMF for a moment. And y'all saying, Goodon's saying that they're allowing non-Métis into the back door of the MNO, right? Okay, well, how many non-Métis are holding MMF cards right now?
Well, we've done a story on that where people's genealogy wasn't verified. We know for a fact that people that belong to the MMF shouldn't belong to the MMF.
Exactly. Working in the office. They're working in the office.
They work in the office. And I mean, we can verify that. So, I mean, this happens within the MMF as well as the MNC. We have Wee Z, who is a Chinese. She's working at the MNC. So
they're using Chinese IT company. They're using all these Chinese workers instead of Métis workers. And then what are they doing? They're using a white man to conduct research in order to try to commit genocide against some of the actual real Métis that exist in the East. Yeah, there is a lot of white people in the East trying to say that they're Métis. We know that. But also you got to recognize there is real Métis there, and they should not be left out.
And you know what? Will Goodon goes on to say November 17th as well that the national president had asked for an MNC Board of Governors meeting for several months to discuss General Assembly and election, but he's saying that Audrey Portress and Glenn McCullum have refused.
Well, let me ask Will Goodon something. How does it feel, Will Goodon, that to be refused? Let me ask you something, Will Goodon. That marker for Cuthbert Grant Jr. that Alexandria and the SEP were responsible for placing out there for people to visit and see, when you were asked to contribute anything financially, did you do it? No, but you take every opportunity to do a photo op there. And so how does it feel, Will Goodon? And the thing is, yeah, now welcome to the world of refusal. Y'all are sitting up there misappropriating funds, and you couldn't even put one penny towards the marker that you like to run to every year and take your photo up?
Because the MMF and the MNC like yes people. They like people that will comply, people that they can manipulate.
Ass kissers is what they like.
I'll never be one of those people. And part of my legacy is paying homage to my ancestor, Cuthbert Grant Jr., and I'm quite proud that this marker was put up when the MMF could have put a marker up years and years ago. You knew that he was the first leader of the Métis people.
They didn't give a crap. Just like when you wrote the book on your great-great-uncle there, Cuthbert Grant, and they didn't even support that. So, you know why? Because did we forget about the lingerie, anybody? Did we forget about all this misappropriating of funds, all these trips out of the country? Did we forget about all the sexual misconducts that's been happening in the Métis communities? Did we forget about all this stuff? But we can't take time to put money towards things that actually matter, that have historical value.
Well, it's all about nepotism, and again, it's about about people that they can buy and sell and that they can control. And the most sort of shocking thing for me, and Will Goodon, of course, all over Twitter goes on to say this, essentially then, the MNO is therefore mainly comprised of Ontarians of various ancestry who self-declare they were Métis and were accepted and seemingly legitimized by the MNO. How in the hell does he know all this information? He sure in the hell isn't a historian. He's not a researcher. So how does Will Goodon get in the know on what is going on between what's going on in the MNO? I'd like to know that myself. He's a minister of housing, but how does he know so much about the MNO, Metis Nation of Alberta, and Metis Nation of Saskatchewan?
We'll invite him to come on our show. You're invited to come on our show and have a reasonable sit-down conversation with us. Do it on the phone, in person, however you want to do it. We can do this interview, and we can have a legitimate civil conversation, because we have a lot of questions that we would like to ask you. And I'm just going to say this. Yeah, people sin. They make mistakes in their life. And we try to move past that, and we try to progress forward in a positive light. And we want unity in our Métis community. We do want unity there. And so, we're open to having civil conversations here about some of the things. And we do know that Will, when your book was originally about Cuthbert Grant Jr. was not supported, we do know that he reached out and apologized for that. We do have all the communications still to this day. So Will, I think Will has a heart somewhere inside him, but I think it's been drenched and it has the grip of greed on it. And so now that they've lost their grip on all these other organizations, now they see that they're crumbling and falling, and they're not really crumbling and falling apart, because the MMF is going to stand no matter what. Let's just be real here. The MMF is not going anywhere. But we do need that corruption will damn sure go somewhere, and we cleaning that up one show at a time.
And you know what? I think this statement that I'm going to read to you describes the MMF and the MNC right to a T. And it says, only small minds would use a non-Indigenous man, and that's Darryl Leroux, to attack their own Indigenous people, just so they can be the one and only Métis representatives. But I'm sure the federal government are agreeing, because again, they become yes men. So again, the MMF and the MNC really like people that comply, take direction, take orders, take money, and I think it's actually completely disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, they like that because they got the money. And it's a shame that somebody who could have been history, the way history is going to record Chartrand is a corrupt, greedy individual. It's a shame that that's going to happen, because Chartrand could have been written down as a great Métis leader, as someone who actually has done a lot for the Métis community. But the misappropriation of funds, all the corrupt stuff he's done, it doesn't seem like history is going to record him that well in the eyes of the Métis community. He's just a stain. Now, we've seen some progress. We've seen some good things happening, and we were kind of backing off little bit hesitant about going back after the MNC and the MMF, but I think that's where our focus needs to be right now, because we see some backsliding and some more corruption there.
And I'm going to read a statement that was on social media, and I agree with it myself. And it says, Daryl, and they mean Darryl Leroux, is a coward. He's a white settler who has bestowed upon himself to be the academic policeman on Metis Identity. He blocks you if you're a non-academic, and he has the gall to anybody that has the gall to question his research or opinions. He blocks you. He's just another colonizer wrapped up in the skin as an ally. And I completely
an ally to who? Not the Métis people, only the leaders that's getting the money. So to all our indigenous brothers and sisters out there, here's what I want to ask you. How long are we going to let this non-Métis into our community to continue pushing his agenda? And you think that he's not been reaping financial benefit here? Of course he has. And so how long will we allow Darryl Leroux to interrupt in our Métis community? Need to be submitting any kind of research, because they both biased on both ends.
And you know what, folks? You're going to see, of course, this in a screenshot, and this was posted. And this is what's been going on as of late on social media. And this was posted November 19th, 2020. And the Tri-Council, which is the MNA, MNS, and the MNO, the Tri-Council says it's not leaving the Metis National Council, but the stalemate continues. And again, we're going to refresh where we did show you, where apparently Will Goodon says that it appears that the Tri-Council has left the MNC.
Why the hell wouldn't they? Why the hell wouldn't they? This is because the MNC has gave everybody their ass to kiss, and many people's been doing it, but a lot of people got tired of doing it. And so why in the hell would they stay with people that, I mean, I almost feel like we should go ahead and put out that catastrophe of an audit that happened not too long ago, and let people see it, and see that paperwork, and see the complete screw-ups that were happening with the MNC. And so there's nothing but screw-ups, cover-ups, misappropriation of funds. So why would people stay? Now, if they broke away and they're deciding that they want to do corrupt things, we're going to be there, and we're growing faster than ever. Now, you may not see our shows that often as much as you would probably like to, but we have grown substantially. And so we are doing other things outside of these shows, and a lot of that's going to come to light that you will actually come to know and see in the future.
And again, as most of us are aware, in the last 2 years, it's really become like a fight club, where there's been a divide in the Métis Nation, pitting Saskatchewan, Alberta, Ontario against Chartrand. And they keep saying this, but he's not gone anywhere. The outgoing president of the Métis National Council, Chartier, and they're saying it's led the 3 Métis governments to form a coalition, or the Tri-Council, yet they still want to be a part of the Métis National Council. And again, it's just they go on and on about the Tri-Council, and you'll also see this. I'm not going to read this all to you, because everybody knows what this fight club has been going on. The MNC says that it suspended the MNO more than a year ago, and recently the MMF president David Chartrand was interviewed on Nation to Nation, and he's saying that the dispute is about who is historically known to the Métis Nation, and not what the MNO defines as historic. He's calling it trickery. And I think through this dispute, I want everybody to keep this word in mind. It's a very, very important word, historic. So keep that word historic. And again, it's led to a stalemate within Métis Nation, and they're saying delaying an election for the next president to replace Chartier, who he keeps publicly stating for almost over a year, that he's retiring. So when is he going to get off the money pot? They're using that as an excuse.
They're talking about historically. I sure as hell hope they're not looking at the research that white man Darryl Leroux has done, or they're not looking at that false homeland map. That's a load of crap. I'll tell you what, if you want to see the Metis homeland map, look at North America. That's your Metis homeland map. And so that is the map of North America. That is your Metis homeland map. That little bit of blurb that you got there in Canada where Chartrand happens to be, it's where he can maintain control of the funding. Yeah, he might have Trudeau up his butt. And, he may have these other politicians. We know Carolyn Bennett's crooked as ever. And we're not done with that yet as far as that story that we talked about with her giving a white man or somebody who could not prove their identity or their indigenous genealogy, that they helping them with money. And so somebody like Bennett and Chartrand, man, they're really out there. They made for each other. And so you have a love affair there, and it's kind of what you call it, a trilogy. It's Trudeau, Bennett, and Chartrand. And so, yeah, it's a real sickening picture if you think about it.
And the MNO president, Margaret Fro, says she's heard it all before from David Chartrand as this fight club battle within the Metis Nation continues. And she actually was also on Nation to Nation to respond to David Chartrand's latest attacks on the Metis Nation of Ontario, and Fro called it hypocritical of the MMF president to be against the Paulie decision that confirmed the Metis homeland extended deep into Ontario, and that includes communities that the MNO identify as Métis.
Let me tell you something, and this is where our leaders in the Métis community has it wrong. They're letting colonialists tell you or helping you put together a BS homeland map, because again, that homeland map is the map of North America. That is the homeland map. And so Canada, United States, look at that. That is your homeland map. And so, yeah, and to say that it's a little blurb there, you're really taking away, and actually you're supporting the colonial act of taking the land away from the indigenous people, because you're saying, hey, none of this other land is where the Métis were. It's only here's your homeland map. I don't know, man. There's a lot of people that's probably believing it, and how in the hell can they believe it? What Métis originate in the East?
It's a propaganda tool, and MNO President Margaret Fro goes on to say, I think it's quite hypocritical now to turn around and deny the existence of Paulie. And Paulie, if you'll remember, began over dead moose in 1993. Two Métis men were charged for illegal hunting, but argued they had the rights under Section 35 of the Constitution Act that protects the right of the Métis to hunt for food. And again, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled in 2003 that the Métis community in and around Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, has constitutionally protected rights. And prior to this Supreme Court of Canada decision, the Métis homeland extended only into northwestern Ontario, but the Supreme Court of Canada decision extended the homeland map right there.
Ain't that gracious of the colonial government to extend the homeland map? I mean, good God, for the colonials to be so kind as to tell our people where they're located at. Ain't that such a beautiful thing? And actually, I'm being sarcastic there, if you can't tell. Who in the hell is the Canadian Supreme Court, Supreme Government there to tell any damn body what their homeland map is, what their people's homeland map is? I mean, no. let's get it right. The colonization took place, and before that happened, you had all the natives. This was never white man's land. This was all North America was all native land, and the colonial government comes over here, and years later they want to tell you where your homeland can extend to. Oh yeah, good job, good job.
And then Will Goodon again goes on to say on November 21st, and it says, in light of the continued support of non-Métis inclusion in the definition by MNA and MNS presidents, here are some highlights from a paper written, and this makes my stomach turn. I almost threw up when I read that. And he says, a paper written by two very esteemed, and here's the word, academics. Nowhere has he said that they are historians, that they have a historian background. He calls them academics. And of course, it's Darryl Leroux and Darren O'Toole. And we'll go more into that in a minute.
Darryl Leroux, that's a bulb that don't shine too brightly. However, you know, he's recognized how he can make his mark by going in and interfering in communities he has no damn business in. And yeah, I don't have nothing positive to say here, so maybe.
And then he goes on to say on November 20th that one more so-called, and I hate when he uses this derogatory racial term, one so-called Métis community described in this fake Leroux-O'Toole report is the Killarney Métis community. And this is what he's saying. The most glaring problem with the MNO's recognition of Killarney is the fact that they've only identified 7 root ancestors, folks.
And here's the thing. I agree with Darryl Leroux on some things. Again, he don't belong in our community, but I do agree that if you have one ancestor from 300 years ago, you damn sure are not Indigenous or Métis and should not be using the title chief. And so, however, it still is up in the air about this community that he's referring to. And
well, it's not up in the air according to the Ontario government, and you'll see this after I'm going to read a blurt of a screenshot here, and this is by the Ontario government, and they say, in the spirit of reconciliation, the province of Ontario and the MNO have been working together to determine whether historic Métis communities existed in given areas in Ontario. And it says, as a result of this corroboration, 6 new historic Métis communities have been identified, and one of these 6 historic is the Killarney Historic Métis Community. So the government of the province of Ontario recognizes the Killarney Historic Community. They worked with the MNO to
well, as long as they got genealogy, they can prove they're Indigenous, they can prove they're Métis. If they can prove these things, then yeah, it's not up for the white man Darryl Leroux. It's not up for Chartrand, Chartier, or Goodon to actually say if they're Métis or not. If they have their genealogy, and I'd be curious to see it, but if they have genealogy, then yeah. Why would he be upset about it?
And it's the historic Métis communities in Ontario, again, the historic Killarney Métis community, and it's based on, and this is the key word, existing research on Métis communities in Ontario and the criteria established by the Supreme Court of Canada in R versus Paulie, a historic Métis community developed from the interconnected Métis populations at Killarney and its interverns. So again, and they're actually giving you're not going to read the whole screenshot, it's quite lengthy, and they're providing data. They're actually giving a Killarney timeline, and the timeline begins in 1681, and then it goes further on to the timeline as far as even 1901. It gives in the report demographics, and it gives vocation and cultural practices for the Métis in Killarney. Killarney. So that's in my mind, that is historic research in regards to the Killarney historic Métis community.
Well, that's good. So what my thing is, what's the complaint? Why is Goodon complaining? Let me break it down for you for the people that might not understand here. This is more people that's going to qualify for more of that financial pie, right? Am I right here? Is this what his argument is?
Well, he goes on, and you'll see various screenshots. One of them, it says, only one of the 17 MNO verified Métis family lines for the Matwa community has any direct connections. Again, here's that word, Métis homeland. So again,
so he has no argument then, because the homeland map is garbage.
They're basing their attacks on the MNO, that if you don't belong to this fake homeland, you're not Métis. That's what it comes down to. You're not Métis.
What is the Chinese people that's doing the work for the MMF? Are they in the homeland map? Or is Darryl Leroux, who's not even Métis, does he qualify? So it only works. It only works as if you're associated with these people and helping them to take the funding. If you're outside of their circle of corruption, then of course they're not going to be supportive of you.
And again, Will Goodon on November 26th goes on to say, now we have another kind of Métis from the MNO. Fro uses Metis Nation, Métis, Section 35 communities, now Great Lakes Métis, and again, notice she doesn't say they're part of the Métis Nation. Very deliberate. So give me a break. Again, it's just this meaningless propaganda from Will Goodon, from the MNC, MMF. It just makes me sick.
Yeah, a lot of things they do have made me sick.
And around that date too, and I'm not going to read the whole letter because you can see it online, but you'll see screenshots. And this was posted Ottawa, November 26, 2020. And the MNO sets the record straight about its history within the Métis Nation and the Métis National Council. And it says they've released an open letter, and it goes on to the letter about the MNO, and you can read that. It's all going to go on there as well. And we're also going to be posting, it's an open letter to Métis Nation leaders and citizens telling truths about the MNC and the MNO. And this is from Margaret Fro, and I'll read a sample of it. You can read the rest of the letter at great length. As the President of the Metis Nation of Ontario, I am writing to each of you directly because the Métis National Council has become dysfunctional and is essentially controlled by a few individuals and consultants. And she also goes on to say that the MNC also now regularly circulates misinformation, falsehoods, and alt-right lies about the MNO. And she goes more into that. Again, like I said, you can read that letter at your leisure at great length. It's also posted online or whatever. So she is responding to the attacks by David Chartrand.
Yeah, and Chartrand, Goodon, all you corrupt people out there who, well, I'm going to say this. Y'all done a lot of shady, dirty things to the Métis people. And now you got a chance to be butthurt, or you're taking your turn to be butthurt here because people are actually doing things that you say that you do not approve of, and you have no control of it. The reason why you lost control, as we tried to tell you when we first started Métis Warrior, what, 2.5 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
When we first started Métis Warrior, we tried to tell you that this was going to happen, that the people would break away. And what happens? What happens? You didn't listen. You didn't damn listen.
And you know what, folks? I'm not going to post this whole sickening report, but this is the crux of the report. And it's an analysis of the MNO's recognition of 6 new historic Métis communities. It's a final report, and this report is prepared by the white man Darryl Leroux and Darren O'Toole for the Manitoba Métis Federation on March 7th, 2020, and it goes on to this whole report. They give a definition of Métis. They go on to this sickening thing. They also address the Killarney Métis community. And you know what, folks? I think the most sickening thing is Darryl Leroux and Darren O'Toole, they are not historians. Yeah, they're academics, and you'll see also in a screenshot where Darren O'Toole is an associate professor. He's got a BA in political science, an MA in political science, PhD in political science out of Ottawa. He's out of the University of Ottawa, and he teaches Aboriginal law and Indigenous legal philosophy and the philosophy of law. I'm not going to read this whole shindig, but so the MNC and the MMF is using, again, they're getting Darryl Leroux, who is non-Indigenous, who is a white person, to prepare a report against the MNO and those communities that the MNO worked with the Ontario government to recognize those historic, and they are the 6 new historic Métis communities that have been identified. So here we have the MMF, the MNC, Darryl Leroux, Darren O'Toole. Will Goodon is saying that the government of Ontario is wrong.
Darryl Leroux is wrong. David Chartrand is wrong. Why in the hell can't we just be united? Chartrand, just man, you brought this on yourself. Goodon, you brought this on yourself. Y'all caused the division by being corrupt, and so we brought it to the people. We definitely had a hand in the separation that has came, and you know, there don't seem like there's going to ever be unity again with Chartrand in the mix, because everybody knows that they're just breaking away because they're tired of that dictator mentality and the, oh, you can kiss my ass or don't look at me in the elevator. Nobody wants to look at you in the elevator, Chartrand. Trust me, nobody wants to look at you in the elevator. But how in the hell could you not see you? And that's, I'm trying to be nice here, but go ahead.
So, and again, you'll see a screenshot November 25th where Will Goodon, again, very discriminatory, racial individual, where he's saying so-called communities in this report. And he also says, too bad Audrey Portress and Glenn McCullum put their hurt feelings before the integrity of the nation.
There's no integrity of the nation. How in the now you know what? With that comment, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to make damn sure the financial reports come out in a show. Yeah, we put it out on the other channel, but we're going to put it back out, because if he wants to talk about integrity, there's no damn integrity. I mean, there is nothing positive. There is no, I've seen some few positive actions happening. However, when you want to talk about integrity, no, you corrupt as hell to the damn bone, man. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just getting aggravated right now. So it's just to hear somebody who is, I mean, that's like saying that you're in the damn dump and they're saying, who don't want to smell this great smell? No, it's the smell of crap. And it's the smell of these corrupt individuals that have actually destroyed the unity. And Trudeau, what a man. And I'm trying to stay on my righteous path here. So you got something you want to say?
Well, I really do have something to say, folks. And let's put it into perspective. The propaganda that the MMF and the MNC, Will Goodon, and white man Darryl Leroux is trying to shove down your throat, Métis people, and it's just this simple. They're telling you that if you are not in this Métis fake homeland map, you are not Métis. It's that easy. So they're, they're putting the power amongst themselves to determine who is a Métis individual. So if you're not in the Métis Homeland Map, folks, according to MMF MNC, you're not a Métis person. So, I mean, the MMF, MNC, Darryl Leroux, Will Goodon are perpetrating lateral violence, lateral damage against Métis people. We should not allow that to happen. Métis people are not to be bought and sold on the stock market, and we are not a number to access funding, and we don't have somebody on top of the pyramid that is a gluttony for money and power and is abusing what you're supposed to do as a democratic Métis government is to be for the people, by the people, and is not to buy and sell your people for the highest bidder as a number for funding. So anytime there's something going on, controversy, you can bet your bottom dollar Will Goodon is all over Twitter attacking MNO, attacking MNA, and MNS. That's all they're good at, is lashing out. If you are not going to comply, if you're not going to be bought and sold, that's what's going to happen. They're going to lash out at you. They're going to attack you because they're really a wounded animal. And they are lashing out. They're losing control over the Metis Nation of Alberta.
They've already lost control. And let me tell you my problem with Trudeau. Trudeau has been buying votes. Nobody gives a crap that this man buys votes with multi-millions of dollars going to Chartier and Chartrand. Nobody cares that he's been buying votes. Trudeau is as corrupt and dirty as they damn come, because let me tell you, this guy can give away taxpayer dollars just to guarantee himself some votes. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is the issue that I have with Trudeau, okay? And so, I mean, it makes no sense to me.
What kind of leader of an Indigenous Métis organization goes on television and attacks? That's not a leader. That's not a leader for the people, by the people. That is like a rabid animal that is lashing out. Once the reins of control have been loosened, or they lose control of their flock, for lack of better words, they become like a rabid animal. And David Chartrand, you should be ashamed of yourself going on TV and attacking people. I mean, Darryl Leroux, you're not a historian. Darren O'Toole, you're not a historian. So how can, you're maybe academics, but you're certainly not legitimate genealogists or historians. I don't even think they
have any kind of intellectual anything. Actually, I mean, anybody can study for a damn test and pass it. Does that mean that they become a specialist or retain knowledge in a specific area? I think I question whether they have a lick of sense in any sense of the word. I don't think that they have any intelligence. I got to take that back, because Leroux, I will say this about Leroux. He's right about the one ancestor 300 years ago. But what he needs to come out and say, we don't even need him to come out and say that. I ain't going to say that, because really he just needs to stay the hell out of the Métis community. So yeah, that's all I got.
And again, I'm going to read this statement in closing, really, and it makes total sense. And only small minds like the MMF and MNC would use a non-Indigenous man to attack their own people. And it's really, really sickening that really Darryl Leroux is a puppet for the MNC, MMF, and I know we had shown a screenshot a while back where he said he wasn't being paid by one, but certainly he's not doing his research, if you can call it that, from the goodness of his heart. He's being paid. They fly him to Winnipeg to do presentations, and this stupid report, the O'Toole report, Leroux O'Toole report, you can bet your bottom dollar, released on March 7th, 2020. He didn't do it for free, folks.
That's all I got.
Take care.